in and out of the hospitals. Watch over all of our mourners. Watch over our veterans far, near and far. Pray they come home, one mind, one body, one spirit. Watch over our elders and our children. Watch over our Finford, feathered bipedal relatives. That's it, Mama P. Good day, sketchy.
Thank you, Eric. Council, I just want to start the meeting off by saying that thank you for those that held the office down last week while some of us were on travel. A delegation went to the Tribal Land Conference in Minnesota, and a delegation went to the Native American Finance Officers meeting in Seattle, Washington. It was very educational, fulfilling, and also filled my cup up. We got to see one of our tribal members in Seattle. Shout out to Jules LaRose and his hospitality, and he says hello to his Degas. So that was good. Look forward to sharing what we learned with you, Council.
Did he give you any money to bring back to Louie and I?
He did take us to a very loose casino.
Oh, okay.
So,
Used it up there, huh?
yeah. Yeah, only me though. But it was beginner's luck. Okay. So I have one item to add to the agenda today, and that's the presentation that you have some materials in front of you, and I got some more to pass out. And that was on a home ownership in Indian country presentation presented by a few folks, but the one in particular that I'd like to talk about today is Travoy. So I'd like to add that for discussion of tribal council items is the presentation Homeowner Indian Country and Travoy. Do we have any further additions to the agenda?
I would like to bring up the duplexes for the veterans, if we're gonna have a subsidy for them.
Okay. So Veterans Housing Subsidy. Any further items?
Pam Muckuk came to my office and wanted to know what was going to take place now that the time for staying out at the casino was up. But in talking with Coley and a couple other people, I guess that's being worked on, so I'm not going to put it on the agenda.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move it, Madam Chair.
We have a motion by Kenny, second by Louis. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. Our first item is the reading of the minutes. We have the March 21st, 22 mid-monthly tribal council meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second? Second by Rona. Second by Rona. Louis, you got that one. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. The next set are the March 24th, 22 General Council meeting minutes. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Rona. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. March 25th, 22 Treasurer's Report meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
Well, Madam Chair, I revised it. Under the tribal CFO report, the org chart changes in the IDC. The WTN IDC pool employees at Winnebago Comprehensive Health Care System, it should have included, besides finance, IT, HR, planning, it should have included communications.
So did Alan forget to say that, or was that in?
I don't know, it wasn't in my minute, or my notes, but he said he intended for that to include communications, so I added it.
Okay,
So it's revised.
What were the additions?
WCHS communications, there was a list of WCHS finance, IT, HR, planning, and the CFO intended to include communications all from WCHS to be in our IDC pool.
How does that work then, Cory? So what's presented that way?
I don't know. Did anybody from Robert's Rules of Order have any feedback on that? Or, I guess.
Since it wasn't approved yet, it was a draft, we can change it. if you agreed, cause you made the motion and Eric already agreed. Cause it's still a draft until we approve it.
So since I don't know the answer to that question, I don't know how to, I suppose it was a successful motion, all in favor. Does anybody want to weigh in on that? Brian, do you know any procedurally if we can add to that motion, or do we just need to do another motion reflecting that addition?
You're attempting to change a set of minutes that have already been approved?
No, they haven't been approved.
Oh, then anything can be done to it.
Even if it wasn't presented. Even if it wasn't presented that way in the meeting?
Yes,
Okay, so it was intended, so we just read minds and we go ahead and put it in there the way it should have been?
if it's a necessary change, yes.
Okay.
So, did Alan request?
He said
Okay.
that's what he intended.
Okay,
By email, so I got it in writing.
sounds good. So, Rona, are you comfortable with that?
I just wanted that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
So, do we have a motion to approve the treasurer's report? Thank you, Brian, for the March 25th, 22. We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second?
I included with the revision.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Discussion.
Okay. Do we have a second for discussion? Are you seconding for
Second
discussion?
part, yeah, for discussion.
Okay. Brian.
The minutes aren't official until they're actually approved, so if there are errors or amendments or adjustments that need to be made, they can always be made up until the point that they are approved. And if there is a disagreement, then you simply vote no.
Okay. Thank you for that guidance, Brian. We appreciate that and setting us straight a little bit. Okay, so call for the question. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. Number 4, 32822 General Council Land Transfer Meeting. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Rona. Do we have a second? Second by Louis. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. Number 5, 32922 Executive Session. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Move it.
We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second? Second by Rona. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. Number 6, 32922 Special Meeting BIA Regional Director. Do we have a motion?
Make the motion.
We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second? Second by Rona.
I have a question.
Lorelai.
Did we get, he sat, the regional director sat here and told us he was sending us the BIA Law Enforcement Budget. Did we get it?
I don't believe so. We did not get the budget, but we did receive the funds, and we're waiting for the scope of work to be approved to spend those monies. So that's the update I had from Alan as of last week. But I have not seen the BIA budget in my email. If it's in there, I overlooked it, so I'll look again today.
He said, I'll send that right to you.
Oh,
The operating, law enforcement operating budget.
So any further discussion on this item? Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. Okay, that finishes up the minutes. Now to ratify 5 signatures. Number 1, adopt resolution 22-88. I'm gonna read that for the membership. That resolution was recognizing, honoring, and thanking George Boykin for his many contributions to the Sioux City community and support of the Winnebago tribe and all indigenous people. For the tribal membership, A couple weeks ago, the late Frank Lemire was honored with the George Boykin Citizenship Award at the Siouxland Health Foundation event, and the Winnebago tribe participated by attending, purchasing tables, donating auction items, and we reciprocated the honor of Mr. Frank Lemire by honoring Mr. George Boykin as well. We had a council delegation in attendance, remarks were made, gifts were given, so thank you, council, for that. With that, do we have a motion to ratify, or excuse me, ratify Resolution 22-88?
So moved.
We have a motion by Louis, do we have a second?
A second.
So,
Okay.
second by Rona. Discussion.
Yeah, are we gonna send this resolution in frame form?
We did send a nice, that Monday Teresa was on it,
Okay.
so she sent that to the family.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Objection to the motion? Motion carried, 700. The next one is approve emergency assistance. Thank you, council, and thank you, Rona, for your leadership on getting things going for the family that had an emergency. Those just stressful situations sometimes cause us to have to do things outside of our normal process. So thank you, council, for your support. Do we have a motion to ratify the 5 signature for emergency assistance?
Motion to ratify.
We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second? Second by Rona. Discussion.
Give a little update.
Rona.
Some of the emails yesterday was, that, the question was, how long was her stay? And it's up to the 12th. But then I found out that, it's been a struggle for her to be driving back and forth. So she's gonna go ahead and go with, the housing authority, and they're gonna pay for up to 2 weeks for her. And then hopefully that 3-bedroom will be open for her to move in.
Wonderful. That's a good update. Thank you to housing. Okay, any further discussion? Objection to the motion? Motion carried 700. That brings us to new business. Under Planning Department, we have Resolution 22-90, Angel Decor Museum and Research Center Brochure Project. Do we have a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Oh, it's crossed
Second.
out. 2290, yep, that's right. So we have a motion by Louis to adopt Resolution 2290, and we have a second by Kenny. Discussion. Objection to the motion? Motion carried 700. Next one is adopt Resolution 22-91, TTP Agreement Approval. This says, this agreement authorizes the Winnebago tribe to perform planning, research, design, engineering, and maintenance on the highway, road, bridge, parkway, or transit facility programs or projects that are located on or which provides access to the Winnebago Reservation that is eligible for full funding. Previous map 21 as amended for new Surface Transportation Reauthorization Act. So this is money for roads, I presume. Tribal transportation, that's what it is. Okay, is there a motion to adopt 22-91? Motion by Eric to adopt 22-91, second by Rona. Discussion. Objection to the motion? Motion carried 700. Okay, well, we are just zipping through this morning, council. Thank you for your motions. So that brings us already to our tribal council added items. And in front of you, council, you have some materials that are printed out, and I'm also going to hand out these ones. As I mentioned, a delegation attended the Native American Finance Officers Association conference, and I was sharing with some of my colleagues that it's different from any other conferences that I've been to, and it's very much a business conference, and people go there to do deals, to gain business, touch base with their clients. So there's a whole lot of that goes on. But one of the things that also goes on are these really good breakout sessions, and one of those ones was well, first I went up in going around to the booths and picking up all the free pens and things like that. I met this booth and it said home ownership, and so I started chatting this guy up and I said, "Oh, I'm from the Winnebago tribe." And he said, "Oh, really? I'm going to be in Winnebago tomorrow, meeting with Joy." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, tell Joy I said hi." And you know, they were going to be taking pictures of the Little Priest apartments and the Warrior apartments, and those are new tax credit projects. And so when we started talking about that, I started telling them about some of our unmet need, and that some of our tribal members who are low income or you know, getting their credit things straight and things, they don't always have the opportunity to participate in some of the home ownership programs that we have. And so I've been talking to Coley, I've been talking to Isaac, I think I've been talking to a little bit of everybody about this, that we have a segment of our community that are just not ready or not positioned to become a homeowner. And we have a wonderful program over there with our down payment assistance program. But just in my heart and what I can see, I see people being left out. And I think that sometimes it creates, it just creates a lot of problems. You know, we've been talking about the youth, we've been talking about kids that have to go to school and with dirty clothes, or kids that, you know, are hungry, and some kids don't have a home. And that's just really been on my mind, how we can get more of our tribal members in some stable housing, and that is just something that I think some of us take for granted. So with that in front of you, and I also emailed it, there's this presentation, and there was several people that presented during this presentation. If it's in the email, if everybody didn't get one, I think everybody got one. Anyway, so what was really interesting about this was they first talked about some of the data and some of the different financing information, and this guy was from Treasury, and they talked about lending and things. But the most interesting part for me was when the guy from Travoy came on, Adam Rose, and that section is called Adam Rose, Director of Partnership and Growth at Travoy. And what Adam did was he showed in his presentation. So if you flip to the ones that kind of look like little charts or something, he went through there and he started showing me, or he showed in his presentation, and that's what some of these other little handouts show. They're like sample projects. These are real projects that they've done with tribes. And so these new market tax credit projects, basically somebody's giving us the money and they get, you know, tax credits down the line. But, and that's something we can learn more about. But what really caught my attention was this program they talked about is, Coley keeps talking about rent to own. They didn't call it rent to own. They called it, I don't know what they called it, but basically a new tax market credit project. And this one, for instance, was a 38 home project, and the total project cost was $9,831,000. Total investor equity, $8 million. So there's all different, you know, kind of aspects of this. But one thing he said was there was a $17 million project and the tribe only had to come out 2 or 3. And I'm like, we have 2 or 3, but we don't have, you know, that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is people have figured this out. We just have to help our entities and support them with learning more about this together, encouraging them, helping build a stronger relationship with Travoy, and just getting it done. So I guess I'm at the point of let's just get it done. I'm interested in inviting Travoy here for a presentation. Also in the packet, they are having a meeting in April, and I am pretty serious on asking for a delegation to go. I mean, let's go, you guys. Like, if we have to help shepherd this along and support the entities that have this in their wheelhouse, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't want to point fingers. I don't want to like say somebody, you know, forgot, you know, or just because they're really busy. So I guess as the leadership, the more we learn about this, the more we can support them. And so I'm just excited. I come back from this trip so excited. Washington State was so beautiful. Humbled by Mauna's creation. I mean, I just can't say enough about what this trip did for me. And so I just want to share these with you. And, you know, more time, you can review these materials. But I guess wanted to just cut to the chase to these two formats right here, which shows you what's possible. And on the back page, it shows the income limits. So, because everyone's like, okay, what's the catch? You know, what's the catch here? The catch is that it's for low income people, and that, but you can, so you move into these units once they're all built, and you have to be within that income bracket at that moment. But if you get a better job, maybe, you know, things start looking brighter for you, you don't have to move out. You can earn more money and it never impacts you. And in the 15th year of living in this home, then they give you a mortgage, and then you have to pay for the rest of it. So my question was, in the 15th year, can our down payment assistance come in and we sell these houses for $65,000, and then we tell them to have a good life and they're done? And it's up to this person that they stay in there, this family, for 15 years to get to that point, and they have to pay their bills for 15 years and do everything they got to do. Because the thing that happens is the tribe will determine the cost of that house, and you can either make money on it and, you know, circle money back into your housing, or you could make it, you know, like how I'm trying to make it good for people. Because what do we care if it only cost them $65,000 that they got from down payment assistance? Because the people that put this money up, they got their tax credit, and they got what they wanted, and we got what we wanted. So I just need to learn more about this, but this is just a beautiful thing that, so on that, like I said, this back page, these are the family sizes and the income. And so you can see, and this is just one county, but you can see what the medium income would have to be. And it just seems so attainable, you know, and I think that we have very capable, bright, motivated people, and we just have to bring them the tools. And so I don't know. Oh, Eric had a question, but I'm fired up on this, guys.
Would it be appropriate to make a motion for a delegation to go down to that next class?
I think that would be wonderful. The other good thing is at 1 p.m. today, Joy pulled together a meeting with the housing entities. So, you know, out of respect for them, I also want to make sure that I share this at 1 p.m. with them. And I emailed this to all of them as well when I emailed it to you guys, so that we can all be on the same page, and that we can learn together. And, you know, some of those folks in those offices, they already know about all this. You know, they're familiar with these things. I just want to take a deeper dive. I've spent so much time on this healthcare stuff. I'm ready to pick a new subject up, and housing is it. And I really think in the next 2 years, if we really put our minds to it and put our energy in this direction, we could have a whole new neighborhood. And one of the things that this guy did tell me was frustrating, because it's not like there's many moving parts of this. It's not as easy as I'm making it sound. They talked about, you know, the difficulty with land and land into trust, and he's like, I could build a whole division of houses before we get an answer sometimes from some of these people in DC and things, but we know how to take care of those things too. So I just feel really encouraged, and I want to motivate the council to review these materials and just let's do it.
I have a question.
Lorelai.
You said they're going to have a rate of house payment under the tax credits for 15 years. So does that apply to the end? I mean, is it going to be buying that house?
Yes. So at the end of that
So
15
why did they
years,
get a mortgage?
because it's the difference of what they
Still owe?
yeah.
Okay.
But that's where the tribe could say, you owe this much or you owe this much, because the tribe could have a gain on it or break even or maybe even subsidize it in some way.
So, all right, we already have the housing commission, and those are HUD. Then we have tribal housing for the other housing. So if we start this, if we're gonna go this way, are we thinking of a Winnebago tribe housing tax credit entity, where they would manage these?
So in my mind, this either lives with Norma's program or this lives with Irita's program. It's got to live. It's one of them, or
Yeah,
maybe
there's
it's
gotta
a
be home.
maybe it's a coalition. You know, I'm not sure what that looks like administratively, but we need. So right now, our current tax credit projects are under HCCDC. And
What are those?
the Warriors and the Little
Oh,
Police
okay.
Departments.
All right.
But these ones, it's
Would be
taking,
home-
they be
individual-
individual
individual
homes.
homes.
And at the end of the 15 years, you know, they got to do, so that's the parts that I need to learn more about. You know, there's nuts and bolts that goes to this outside of,
Do you guys have some fully tax credit that are supposed to be closed out
It's underway.
underway?
Yeah,
Those tax credit, all those ones?
yeah.
so not to say that there's not challenges or things that, you know, happen with some of these. Maybe people move out and move on, but it's enough to serve the ones that need it, I think. And this afternoon when we meet with the housing teams, you know,
Bringing them all in here?
Joy had coordinated a meeting at 1 p.m. So, yep, we're having a meeting with all of them. And remember, we had talked about a housing survey or trying to find the gaps, like who are we leaving out, and what does that look like, and how can we lift them up? And like I was mentioning, there's probably our housing folks that know much more about this than I do, and so I just hope to, like, you know, get on board with them and refresh some of their feelings in this, because I think it is administratively difficult and very jumping through their hoops, but the gain is what we need, and we can do it. You know, we see those 2 apartments over there. We're doing it right now.
I think one of the things too is looking at is that is being able to maintenance these while they're in that 15-year range, because once you kick them over to the person, then that's kind of just on them of making their own. But we're gonna have so if there's a way to roll some of that into like a maintenance side of it, just so they could kind of keep their upkeep up, because depending on materials, depending on all those kind of things now, the weight and the pricing and everything, we're gonna have to look at how do we keep these up to date, you know. So when my kids knock 3-4 holes in a wall, who do I call? You know, or do I patch it myself? But there's gonna be some of these people, because it's going towards the low income side of things, there's gonna be some of these people that don't have that skill set or aren't able to, you know, maybe they're a senior or something. So we gotta have somebody that's able to go over there, because one of the other struggles too, and I think it's across the board on all of them, and I'm kind of interested to ask this question with the later on meeting, but is how much, what kind of help does the maintenance crews need of all of these, you know, of all, yeah, bigger staff, and then how does that look, you know, once you start rolling that out. So through this whole thing, as we move forward with this, I would be just kind of be continuing to push the maintenance. How do we keep them looking good and keep them up to date and everything, you know? Because a lot of times there's some tribes out there, and I've been kind of following a couple other tribes here and there, but they build all these good things, but they forget about the maintenance side of it. So then a year down the road or 2 years down the road, then they start kind of getting all beat up and stuff. So
You bring up an excellent point that has been discussed at the HCCDC board meeting, who is also tasked with taking care of these tax credit projects. And so one of the things that they do, that I'd say Ho Chunk Inc. does, is they subsidize all that maintenance and they pay for it. And because when these people show up, those buildings have to look good and kept up. And so that is one thing that we're not doing on the tribal housing side with our tribal, because we see the condition of some of these things, and that just over time, they, not because we're bad people, but because over time that happened to them. And so that is a missing component on the tribal side. And how those guys do it over there is they just are throwing money at the problem.
yeah. So I think if
Tori,
Yeah.
just to add a little to the discussion there, my discussion with Phil yesterday included about this because it's a new strategy. The important thing to know that's a part of your discussion here is the investment would work more like what we did with Educare, in that as an investment, the investors come in and then the amount that's left over, and then they can look at writing off the balance at the end. So there's some ifs, and we'll have to get the details on that. So I wanted to address that. But then two, your discussion about the repairs along the way. These are home ownership from the get-go. So it's not necessarily like the other rent to own, in that the individuals that are going into the agreement to have the home will need to take on the responsibility of maintaining the home during that interim time period before it moves over to the mortgage phase. So that's really important for the individuals that would be going into that home to know that they would be the ones that are responsible for any kind of repairs along the way. We would need to have staff that would oversee that and ensure that they kind of keep up with that. But it's more of a home ownership right from the get-go than a rental situation.
So that's one of the things that we're gonna need, Joyce, because when you put that responsibility, I guess I don't know any sweet way of saying this, but so when I come in and I move into my new house and I'm paying on it and I'm gonna rent to own it, and I beat it up and then and it gets messed up because of my own doings, then then all of a sudden the tribe goes and puts that saying, hey, you got to pay the mortgage or whatever, then it's gonna be like, sure, this ain't even worth it, you know. But that's kind of, we got to figure out a way to guide away from that kind of mentality. The other thing too is that when we have if I'm just Joe Blow off the street and I own my own house and I need a maintenance guy over there, the tribe's maintenance crews on all the different departments are pretty tied up. So then do I have a outside contractor come in and do the work? I mean, I'm just trying to find a way to provide a service to the members on taking care of their own home. And so that's why I was kind of looking at that is that some of them aren't able to bring in, if we let them beat their house up and then ask them to pay for it later, we're not going to get no payment out of that because it's just going to kill the morale of why should I? It's going downhill anyway. So I'm just kind of throwing those things out there. I'm not kind of directing them anywhere. I'm just saying these are kind of some of the things that I see that we're going to have to really sit down and have a conversation on in depth with. So
What about insurance during the 15 years? Is the entity gonna pay the household home insurance, or does the buyer?
Joy, do you have any intel on that?
I didn't talk with Phil directly about what Lorelei mentioned there with insurance and if they would put it on, build it on land that's fee title, the tax responsibility, but I would think that would be included along with their payment. So, and the idea with that and why I'm thinking it's there is that way there's not a sticker shock, so to speak, when they transition to that next phase with the direct mortgage at that point in time. So I would envision that whoever's the homeowner would take on that responsibility as the get-go, just as if they were purchasing it. It's just more of a getting past the credit issues that the arrangement is allowing them to use through this program. But we'll need to get more details from Phil.
I think that's going to be needed because we got to remember we're looking at low income housing, and so you throw insurance on there and upkeep. What if they're elders and they can't do that? What if they're handicapped and they can't do that? There's a reason why they're low income, and we need to look out for our tribal members that are trying to get into a place to call their own. And so that's kind of one of the big things that's going to have to be answered. And we do have facilities. We do need to have someone that will keep that upkeep up and keep that off our tribal members that are trying to get a place to call home. And so I guess with that, then I'd like to make a motion to have a council delegation attend that next class.
So we have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second? Second by Isaac. Can I ask for volunteers right now? Who
Where is
wants-
it?
What's the next class?
It's in April. It's in 2 weeks? Yeah.
So this is this
It's April now?
Travoy
Oh my
Indian
God.
Country affordable housing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, I just said is it April now? Like it's April. I know. So just talk to your families and look at your schedule. I'm really Joy. With that, are you available to go to this conference as well?
Um, I'll need to look at the dates on it and then see what I can rearrange.
Okay.
Most of April's full, but it may be things that we can rearrange.
Okay. April 25th through 27th is the dates. I suppose we
Okay.
can talk more about that in the 1 p.m. meeting. I just would like to take a full delegation of who are of our leaders. Not a full. Just we need a team to go, and we need folks that want to
Well, let's
make
ask
this.
in the meeting today.
Make this their project, like let's do this.
Like, somebody from the housing
Yeah.
commission, somebody from tribal housing, somebody from HCCDC. So everybody that's in housing goes and takes a look at this.
Just a refresher in everyone's
Yeah.
mind. Okay, cool. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I see it.
Objection to the motion. Motion carried 8-0-0. Okay, that concludes my item. Thank you, council, for listening, and I'll just look forward to the discussion at 1 p.m. Our next item is the veterans housing subsidies.
I put this on there because, in our last meeting, Alan asked if the council wanted to request that WCHS turn these duplexes that the council said they want for veterans over to tribal housing. So, the council
Rona.
made that motion. But I was wondering, if the council would consider a subsidized in case the veteran doesn't have much of an income, because not all veterans will be getting VA benefits. So if it's gonna be under tribal housing, I'm hoping that the council would approve some kind of subsidy so that they can still pay their rent and their utilities and have something to eat.
Thank you, Lorelei, for adding that for discussion. I was in full support of that when it was first introduced. I wondered how our HUD housing does it and their scale, because it's based on your income. So if a person doesn't have income, then their rent is very reasonable. And so I would hope we could learn from them and copy them.
Okay.
That's my suggestion. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on that. But we would also have to budget, of course. Well, they didn't cost us anything, so it's just we wouldn't be gaining. We would be offering those at the
Yeah.
rate they can afford. And if they have no income, then maybe it's $12 a month or something. I don't know. But Coley, do you have any idea what that scale looks like, kind of by income? Like if somebody doesn't have income, what's their rent?
Oh, I think anymore you have to have an income.
You do?
Yeah.
Some income?
Yeah. Yep. Anymore.
Even if it was GA.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sounds good.
You say even if it's GA?
Yeah.
Because then they can pay, I think GA is around 300. They'd be able to pay something. So is there although we don't have the scale in front of us, is there support to give the guidance to finance and housing to work on that?
Yeah.
Is there a motion to that effect? For Irita's program to identify.
I think they should also be in contact with Gordon as well.
Yeah, I talked to him. He said so far he's only had one veteran that is in need of housing.
Did I hear someone on the line say so moved? I thought I heard Louis say so.
I was gonna.
Okay. You got it? Okay. Cool. Coley says so moved. Okay. And so that is, Coley, I was just talking, but were you wanting Irita to work with Gordon to establish those rates? Those subsidized
Yeah.
housing rates? Okay. So there's a
See
motion
what's
for.
Second.
Who made the motion, Coley?
Yes.
Okay, and then
Coley.
Eric.
Eric second. Brian, did you have discussion or were you seconding? Discussion. Oh, he's moved on. Okay. Any further discussion? Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. I'm showing Isaac out at the moment. Any further? Okay. Motion carried. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Eric. Do we have a second?
Gee, we whipped right along.
Second
here.
by Coley. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 700, oh, excuse me, 700. And we are adjourned at 9:54 a.m.
Gee, we whipped right along.
Thank you,
here.
council. Thank you, Garen. And thank you to our membership for tuning in.
And then we meet again at 1.
And we'll meet again at 1 o'clock with our housing entities to discuss next steps with gaps in our housing, as well as pick back up on this Travoy discussion.
Okay.
Have a good morning.